we thought we would be doing more deal. I mean, I think we will, but I will say the profit per deal has been a lot higher than we initially thought. They were about to get nothing for the home, so we were allowed that, like we paid them off and then we paid the park off. And it was kind of, I can go more into this deal if you like, and because I think it was a very educational deal for us. We went to lunch right before we were about to buy our first deal. And I'm just like, dude, what if the furnace breaks? Like, what if we can't sell it and we have to pay lot rent? I was freaking out. Has slowed down where we don't spend too much time on marketing because it's kind of just like a funnel now, which is great. I'm really happy because I remember people saying that in the beginning, and I'm like, I feel like we'll never get there. We got in touch with like the private equity fund, like the guy who started it, and he's giving us access to all of the parks. And it happened because we ran into a park manager who was like, no, you can't do that here.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mobile Home Investing Lessons podcast. I am very excited to have my dog Schroeder here and to have these two great mobile home investors that we've been working together for a while. Michael, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Joe.
you for having us.
Seriously, this is actually really awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Tell me about you, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I'll probably go first. So yeah, I graduated college about like 2 years ago, and I came into a job. It was real estate finance, and it's the same job I'm working now. So I got really interested in real estate, and I actually met Brian through our company. Our company hired his company, and we stayed in touch. And kind of how we got involved with this is we wanted to do something on our own. We had some money. Both worked in real estate. So, but we didn't have that much money, and we knew getting a loan would be difficult. And so, we were just thinking one time at dinner, like, what can we do? We knew mobile home parks were a good investment, but we didn't know, like, we thought about mobile homes. We were like, okay, what about individual mobile homes? So it got us thinking. We went and checked out a mobile home in Connecticut, and we were like walking the parks and like walking all the parks in Connecticut, talking to the residents, like meeting brokers, and then we were like, we have no idea what we're doing at all. And then we found you. And that's kind of how we got started. And that's kind of a little introduction of myself. I'll let Brian talk, but that's kind of how we got started. And yeah, so I'll let Brian take the floor.
Yeah, just, Michael alluded, we both work in commercial real estate. I graduated in 2020, studied finance, was always interested in investing, but ultimately ended up in the commercial real estate space. Real estate is something that, I really enjoyed. And like Michael said, we just wanted to start doing something on our own while we still worked at a full-time job. And he said, like, we had a little bit of money, saved up, but was looking into certain things. So, Michael and I were actually working together on a self-storage project for the company that um, I worked for at the time and the company he currently works for. And we like that space. And then we were kind of looking at different avenues and, ultimately realized that we didn't have that much money and, but we wanted to do something right away. We stayed in touch, went to networking events, realized we just ended up talking to each other the whole time. And we were like, all right, we have to do something. We have to start something, right now and ultimately, build something up. And we're like, all right, what can we do right now? And started learning about mobile homes, signed up for your course because like you said, we started walking mobile homes. We would literally go to mobile home parks and like you said, we would park the car and walk around the entire park just looking for sale signs, not really knowing anything. We were just looking on Zillow and we realized we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't even know what to look for, what would be a good deal, what would be a bad deal. And signed up for your course and it's been amazing so far.
Thank you for saying that, Brian. I mean, you both have nothing would have happened if without the constant, consistent effort between the both of you. And that's something I want to talk about on this podcast, being newbies in this business, working together as partners, being younger, and also you both live in one of the most, pretty expensive cities in the country. You're in New York City. You have to commute more than most people, which we'll talk to get to your areas. But when and you both work in finance and commercial real estate, for people that haven't done mobile home investing, you think this business is like, would you say it's easy or it's hard?
At least from my experience, it's definitely not easy, but we are figuring everything out. So not only do we have your modules, but we also have, the group as a whole where we could ask questions. We have other people that we've met through your group that we could just text or set up a phone call with. So it's definitely a great framework that you've set up for us. And on top of that, the good thing is it's on a much smaller scale rather than trying to buy either a single family home or a multifamily home or an apartment building. This is on a much smaller scale, so it's cheaper, a little bit cheaper or less money if you do mess up. And on top of that, we've it's taken up, you got to dedicate a lot of time to the business and you got to follow up with a lot of people. And like I was just, half joking with Michael before, nothing seems to go smoothly, but we do figure everything out. So, that's the key. So I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's, manageable.
You're on deal what number right now?
I think we've bought, I think 7, sold 5, and we're selling one right now, and then we're waiting ownership because we bought it on a tax deed. And then we're buying another one in Pittsburgh tomorrow.
Right
Um,
on.
so yeah, and then I feel right now we can talk more about this, but we're working with a company and they own like probably like 20 parks in the Northeast, and they're giving us tons of business right now, like tons of leads that we're like kind of sifting through, really looking at their homes, kind of seeing what works for us. So hopefully that kind of takes us to another level.
Brian, you mentioned about, you know, things not going as smoothly on every deals, and I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it really does range from small things that pop up on the day that we're showing the home to people, to deals falling through because of either title issues, but some small things. We've had some open houses where we show up and it's February and the oil tank ran out of oil, and we show up and the house is 40 degrees and people are asking why it's so cold, to a home that had to be moved and there were no axles on the home, and it was a tough problem getting the axles, and the move had to be rescheduled multiple times, to the gas being abandoned on, to make sure that the home was allowed to be moved, to people having title issues where they can't get the title either into their name or into our name, and deals fall through that way. Or we have an accepted offer on a home and it will be a great deal and we got a great price, and then we call the park to make sure everything's okay, and then they don't allow investors. So, it's a lot of times it's small things that, we need to work through, or sometimes it might kill the deal. But I wouldn't say there were any major mistakes that we lost money on. I feel like it's just, small things that we need to work through, or just deals that die. But yeah, it's definitely not as smooth as we typically think or want it to go.
You got a good deal at the time, and you're right. You may have to spend a little bit more doing this or that, but you got in at such a good price. And then it does really stink when everybody's on board, but then the park manager doesn't really want us there. In that
Mm.
situation that you were thinking of, did you end up still doing the deal somehow? Or did that manager just kind of kill the deal?
So I'll so that's a good point because we do come across a lot of managers that give us a hard time. One solution, and this is a pro tip. One solution that we've kind of figured out is going to the manager's boss or just the head guy or the park owner. And there's a lot of parks that are owned by these big companies. And a lot of the times they have like regional managers, or even getting in touch with a lot of these parks are owned by like funds, like private equity funds. Like right now, we got in touch with like the private equity fund, like the guy who started it, and he's giving us access to all of the parks. And it happened because we ran into a park manager who was like, no, you can't do that here. So we were like, okay, let's talk to the boss's boss. and we just started going up the chain. And kind of what we discovered is these like regional managers, they're very business minded. And if you just talk to them and you're like, hey, I want to purchase a home. I'm gonna renovate it. I'm gonna make it look good, get a bad tenant out, put a good tenant in. Like they love that and they're willing to work with you. And I feel like we come across a lot of park managers who kind of just like brush us off or like who don't really get it, I guess. So that's kind of like a solution we've come up with, and it's been working out really well. So yeah, I mean, so then yeah, to answer your question, we do the deal sometimes because we go to the boss's boss, so it works out.
You both have this attitude, or this, maybe it's not an attitude, but it's something that, um, it's like you're not giving up. Just in that one example,
Mm,
10 other people would have gotten that response from the manager, most other people, and just would have been like, okay, I'll go to one of the other 400, 500 parks around me. But instead, you dig a little deeper, because you know that you have a lot of value to bring to the community. And why wouldn't they want you there? You're like the best candidate, and you're going to bring home, you're going to do things that you actually say you're going to do. So
mhm.
I just wanted to point that out, that like that's what this business needs. It's none of this is going to happen by accident or just be given to you. There are people out there, there's constant, correct me if I'm wrong, there's constant sellers out there that need the help of an investor, and they're going to find somebody, or they're going to give their home away, but they need to find you. How much of your time is spent sort of marketing and advertising? Or maybe it's changed actually from the very beginning to now.
Yeah, I would say it definitely has changed. We were definitely in the beginning calling a lot more managers. And yeah, we were really focused on that for a while, which is great. It definitely can lead to a lot of deals. But like I would say more recently, I would say our business kind of changed when we started doing more online marketing.
Mhm.
And we got our website up and running, and like we were ranked number one in New Jersey, and it got no leads. First, I don't know why. I don't know why. So what we started doing is we started doing Google paid ads in like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and that got us like a lot of leads, which started like helping us. And then recently we purchased someone's website in the group, and we're getting like tons of leads. And then we're working with more parks now. So that time of like kind of like calling managers and stuff definitely has slowed down, where we don't spend too much time on marketing because it's kind of just like a funnel now, which is great. I'm really happy because I remember people saying that in the beginning, and I'm like, I feel like we'll never get there, and we're finally there, and it's definitely just more turnkey, I guess you can say.
How do you balance all of this with being in New York City? Your properties are hours away. How do you juggle the full-time job and then having all of these leads come in? I mean, it's okay if we're just getting a couple leads, but if you're having so many people reach out to you,
Mhm.
are these people just falling by the wayside? I mean, how do you possibly deal with, just the two of you, deal with all this?
Yeah,
I
so
Yeah.
when it comes to reaching out to people, I mean, we have calls in the morning before work, whether it's at 7:30 in the morning. If I'm walking to work, I'll usually call some people, whether it's, leads or inspectors, park managers where necessary, lunch breaks, calling people if I go out for coffee, making some phone calls. And then just about every day, Michael and I will call each other after work, and we'll even call leads after work. Or if somebody calls us during the day, we'll send them a text, be like, hey, can you speak at 5:30? Can you speak at 6 o'clock tonight? And a lot of times they're like, sure, that's fine. So it's a lot of before work, during lunch, coffee breaks, after work, and then the weekends as well.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would say something we could do better because we're getting so many leads now is like doing more like in using a CRM, I guess, is kind of like our solution because we do definitely need to organize better. But I think for the most part we do a pretty good job. It's really just staying on top. Me and Brian, I feel like we're always texting, and really just making sure everything gets done. But kind of to your question about us living in New York and like how we deal with the properties and everything everywhere, I would say that it's actually you can do a lot of these things pretty remotely. Like hiring handyman to go do something. We're never even there when the handyman gets there. We never really even meet them. And so like we're always kind of doing everything online. And then recently, we're starting to work more with realtors. So that's kind of been an interesting thing that we're exploring, which we can talk more about. But you know, kind of we find the home, we buy it, and then we give it off to the handyman, then we give it off to the realtor. So that's kind of how we juggle with kind of living so far.
That's incredible. And the realtors will help with the properties on land and in parks?
So we bought one on we bought a tax deal with a mobile home on land that we should be getting the deed like this month, hopefully. It's
Wow.
taking forever, but we'll probably hire a realtor for that. But the ones we have hired realtors for are just mobile homes and parks.
That's awesome. How many hours a week do you think you put into this business?
It's tough to quantify, but it's definitely all Saturday. So typically Saturday, I'll leave my apartment at 6:45 in the morning, and we don't get back until maybe anywhere between 9 and 11 p.m. So it's all day Saturday because we have to. So we live in Manhattan, then we take a bus to New Jersey and then walk to a guy's house to get his car and rent his car. And then we drive around. We rent a car every single weekend, drive all around New Jersey, Pennsylvania, just recently Maryland, and then got to drive all the way back. And, but, it's fine. We find it fun. So it's definitely not an issue for us at all. Um, but yeah, we definitely come a long way to your point where we were calling you a million times, especially on our first deal, even just like so stressed out about putting the title in our name and what do we have to bring to the DMV, and we were freaking out, and we've come a
Yeah,
long way in a short period of time.
yeah. That I mean, I remember when me and Brian we went to lunch right before we were about to buy our first deal. And I'm just like, dude, what if the furnace breaks? Like, what if we can't sell it and we have to pay lot rent? I was freaking out. And Brian definitely has like a more level-headed than me. And he was like he was like, man, just relax. Like just relax. He was like, dude, it's like $500 a month, like lot rent. Like what's the what like it's like 6 grand a year. Like that it's not like we're taking on like $1 million mortgage here. And but it was just so funny. It was just so stressful. Now I feel like, we would buy a home without even seeing it. I think that's how
Yeah.
comfortable we are. Not recommended, but
But kind
um
kind of building on that, we just do test ads, which obviously you talk about in your course, and that gives, both of us the confidence to buy a home like that. So like just what Michael was saying before, buying the first home, and it was $13,000, and we had
mhm.
we had to blow out the pipes to winterize the home. And so we were all in for about 15. And I wasn't stressed because we did a test ad at 45 and it got a ton of responses and messages. So, even though it was our first deal, and I just wanted to make sure everything went smoothly in terms of paperwork, but I was confident about the deal overall. So, and that's kind of how all the deals go. We do our test ads. We kind of know what the responses are going to be like at certain price points. And then, so if we do a test ad for something at 30, it gets a good response, and we're buying it for say 5, it's like, can't be too stressed. Just
Yeah,
got to make
it's
sure the
hard to
home
lose
doesn't
money.
fall. Yeah, that's the thing. We not only do we want to at least double our money like you've taught us, but it's like, okay, if we were to do this deal, what are the chances of us actually losing money? And it's usually close to zero. I don't want to jinx anything, but
Yeah.
You put a lot of effort. I mean, we go through a lot of due diligence. We know what we're
Mhm.
buying, and I mean, it's not an accident, and we don't have to cross our fingers when we, usually get into a deal. We know we're going to profit. This is a question that I'm just curious on, and like, um, why did you choose me, or has it been a good experience working together, the three of us?
Well, the other guy said no. No, I'm just kidding. The first guy said no, he dropped out. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I thought I found you online, and like I said, we were getting into mobile homes kind of before we found you, and then we found you, and you really laid it out very clearly, which I really appreciated. And you had the mentorship program that we really liked, and yeah, I mean that's kind of why you just really sounded like you knew what you're doing, and that's the truth. So
I fooled you, huh?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got him.
Yeah,
I hope I've been helpful. Yeah, I mean, you guys have
no, definitely,
always stepped up
definitely.
and always been there for you. The I don't think I think the answer is going to be no, but I'm not sure here. How has have you ever thought of it like did you ever want to give up?
I think one of the biggest challenges for us is because we live in New York, like the surrounding areas like New Jersey and the surrounding area that's closest to New York is very expensive. And when we were talking to you and like listening to your modules, we were trying to look for something that's like 5K or like 10K or anything below 15. And like we were like, we're never gonna find anything below 20. Like there's no way. And then like we found a deal that was like a 4 bedroom, 2 bath for like he was at like third. I remember he was at 30,000, and we talked, and we were like, "Oh, we're gonna offer like 20," and you were like, "No, go like a lot lower," and we were like, "Okay," and we did, and he like, you know, took it, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, like that's amazing," and so that was a big learning lesson. So yeah, it was just crazy. It was like our first deal was like a double wide, a 4 bedroom, which I think we took it for granted because we didn't really know what we had. Which now I look back, I'm like, that was a killer deal. It's to find something like that in New Jersey in like that market is for that price is definitely a great deal. So
Yeah, his situation was he was getting behind on lot rents and he wanted to move. So I think he wanted to move to Nebraska and he was a few months behind on lot rents. So the park started to start the process of suing him to get their money back or evict him. So he gave us a call. And something I wanted to mention earlier was just the importance of following up and actually getting back to people and making those
Mm,
calls is there's actually two bandit signs outside that park, us and another company who I don't know who they are. And he said he called both of us and we were the only people that got back to him.
wow.
So just to answer your question, it was kind of situational, and we've come across this before where people have either, realize that they won't be able to afford the lot rent moving forward, or they're already behind on lot rents, and they'll give us a call. And that was his situation on that one.
Was he I mean somebody listening could be like you took advantage of the guy. The guy, he was desperate. We took advantage and you sold it and made a ton of money. Was he actually happy with you afterwards and kind of
yeah,
talk about
no,
that?
definitely not taking advantage. He was like, he even said, he was like, look, I think I can get more money for this, but like, I need to sell it quickly. I want to be done. I want to move. Like, the park's on me for this lot rent. So he was grateful. I mean, another thing is, it's like, we can kind of what we tell, mobile homeowners is that we can close quickly. This process is very smooth. We like know what to do with the title, the paperwork, and a lot of people don't. Like a lot of people don't know kind of like how to do all that stuff, how to go through it very smoothly. And we're very responsive. We talk with the sellers a lot. We answer any questions, which I think they really appreciate because there's a lot of people that like will call these sellers and just like completely blow them off or like go out there, see the home, and then just like they're like, oh yeah, I want to buy, and then they just never hear from them. So I think they really appreciate that. And then the park really appreciated us because we paid off their back lot rent. Because the park, well, this is funny. We called the park and like the person in the front desk, I don't even think she was the park manager. She was like, "No, you can't do, you're no investors here." And we were like, "No," we were like, "Not again." So we got in touch with the park owner, and he was like, "Yeah, that's fine." He was like, "Just pay kind of the back lot rent, and I don't care at all." And we're like, "Great." And so yeah, no, I think he was to answer your question, he's definitely pretty grateful.
Yes.
And
How did you
and
get?
on,
Oh
I,
no,
I just
please.
wanted to say, like, add on to that. Not only did we help the seller and the park, but because we want to sell these homes quickly, we price them under market because, you know, we want to sell it in 2, 3 weeks. So on top of that, we also, you know, we're able to provide a nice affordable home to the eventual buyer. So
Yes. I mean, that does feel good. Like everyone's happy. We can actually make money and the park is happy, the seller's happy, the buyer's happy. Do you have any scary or funny or memorable stories?
Trying to think. I think the story with our second deal, which was like our best deal, it was just very like memorable because we were just constantly like doing anything we possibly could to get the deal over the finish line. And so this is kind of what it was. It was like the person calls us and she's literally about to like lose the home. She owes like 12 grand in back lot rent to the park. The park is days away from taking it away. And she doesn't live there anymore. The home is like trashed and they're about to take it away. And so kind of what we did is we got in touch with the park. We explained to them that, we'll pay the back lot rent, we'll clean up the home, and that allowed them to like, push off kind of the eviction and them starting that process. And then we like went to all the way, it was in Jersey, and to do the paperwork, we had to go all the way to like Philly and meet her there. And it wasn't the best of neighborhoods, I'll say that. And we get there and we have to like we're like signing these paperworks and it was like it was just like wasn't
on the
like I
street
said
corner.
it was on the street corner and we got approached like multiple times and like we were like, oh my God, like this is very sketchy.
You were
And
closing on just a random street corner?
yeah, we were essentially closing on a random street corner and it was so far from us. It was like the only way she could do it. I'm like, this is worth it though. But and so it's just like dealing with the park and then kind of like going through the motions with the seller. Because they're not usually not in like the greatest of states or like state of mind. But we were really helping because they were about to get nothing for the home. So we were allowed that like we paid them off and then we paid the park off. And it was kind of I can go more into this deal if you like, and because I think it was a very educational deal for us. And yeah, so with this one, we were paying probably anywhere from like 5 to like 15,000 for homes. And that's kind of like what you taught us. And I get that. But what we paid up for this one, we paid like 17, so not that much, but then we were all in for like 35 grand. So it was a lot of money for us, but we thought it was worth it because of like a couple things. It was in one of the largest cities in New Jersey. It was a 3 bed, 2 bath, huge double wide, two parking like spots, big deck, huge backyard in a really nice park. And it was like a 1990s. And it was structurally good. It was like structurally sound. It just really needed a cleanup and like cosmetic work, which is like kind of our bread and butter. So, and then we were like, okay, we'll pay up. And then there were a lot of comps in the park and in the area for similar homes that were going for like anywhere from like 80 grand to over $100,000. So we are like, okay, we have these comps. And then we did a test ad for I think like 30 or 40 grand or something. So we were like, okay, I don't think we could lose. Like we did a test ad as is. So we were like, I don't think we could lose money. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of these bets that we do where it's like, the upside's huge and the downside's like not there's minimized. So that was very educational. That kind of taught us that it's more about the market, I think you're in terms of like what you can pay for something. And in New Jersey, there's a lot of markets where you can pay up because you can sell it for a lot more. And the demand is great, like the demand is there. So that's kind of what we've learned is, it's more about the market. It's okay to pay up. And yeah, I actually have we're working on another deal that we can go into, but I can let Brian, tell any stories or let him talk.
What was the, you remember what you were in for 35, 37? Do you remember what you sold that one for roughly?
Yeah, we sold that for 80,000 cash. And
80.
yeah, and it was interesting. Kind of another learning lesson with this one is we were selling it by ourselves for a month. Got a lot of traction on Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people came for tours, but we never found anyone serious. We called a realtor, hired him within a week. He had two offers, one of which we went with, and he was getting more offers as we were closing. And we were like, okay, like realtors definitely add value, especially for homes that are higher priced. But that one was like interesting. Like we definitely could have got a lot more, but we had a lot of money tied up in it. We kind of just wanted out. So it was a really good learning experience though.
And another thing with that home is because it was $80,000, there's a certain level that we realized where even though there's demand at those price points, and even though there's comps at those price points and higher, those deals were typically financed either through seller financing or with a mortgage. So because we were looking for a cash buyer, a lot of the people that were touring or, wanted to buy it, either couldn't pay all cash or they wanted a mortgage, and in which case we would need to get an appraisal and an inspection. And because we mostly did a cosmetic renovation, we just weren't sure. We didn't know if there were any structural damages to the roof, and we didn't want to, run that risk, moving forward and take it off the market for a month and then potentially not sell it if something came back poorly in the inspection. And like Michael said, we really wanted to get our money out of that one because it did, I'd say, not drain our finances, but it tied up a lot of capital. And we did have other deals lined up that we wanted and needed to buy. So we definitely needed to sell it. And so it was a good deal. But we definitely learned a lot, and it was a great experience.
Oh, that's the theme on all these podcasts. Like I learned a lot, or like from that deal, I learned
Yeah.
that, or like, yeah, we're always learning. I mean, that's the point. But it's like learning in a way, yeah, we're not losing money learning. We're
Mhm.
making a lot of money. We're helping people. We're learning. How do you, with working with a partner, how do you both deal with difficulties when one of you wants to, yeah, when you both like strongly opinionated on something?
Well, it's usually I get upset and then Brian lets me vent to him. That's kind of how it works. That's usually how it works. No, but I feel like we're pretty good. Like I feel like we're in terms of like the problems and obstacles, we're pretty good at like kind of like working it through. Strategizing, brainstorming, thinking about it logically, I would say. But we usually agree on like most things, I would say. In terms of like, do we buy this? What can we sell it for? So, but I mean, maybe Brian has other thoughts.
No, we're definitely on the same page on, I'd say, 90 to 95% of the things. And the things where we do need to work through something, we just outline the reasons why we want to or not want to do something, and we make a pretty quick decision because I feel like it's important to make quick decisions. And sometimes whether, sometimes we just want to make a quick decision, sometimes you need to, whether somebody's on the phone or we need to call somebody quickly, or it's just on the, spot decision. We we just talk through quickly the reasons why we want to do something, and then, make a decision. It's been working out well.
Do you have anything negative or positive to say about corporate parks versus mom and pops, or they're both cool?
I would I I feel like we get along with a lot of corporate parks, like a corporate companies that own multiple parks, because like I said, they're very business they're very business minded. They think like that. So if you go in there and you tell someone you're like, hey, I can save you time and money, they'll love it. And because they usually don't want to deal with the homes. They kind of just want to, maintain the lots, not really, fix toilets or anything. So that, but we know a couple mom and pop owners that we like, so nothing
I
against
would,
them.
I would hope so. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a few. There's a couple out there. Yeah.
yeah, but I would say that there's one company, I don't know if I should name, that really doesn't like us. And I think we've talked about this.
We can. Which one? Which one is it?
I think
Starts
it's
with an S.
EQS,
Oh, no,
equity.
oh, is
Is it
that the one
equity
you were thinking?
lifestyle? Equity lifestyle. Oh yeah, yeah. No, sorry, not
E
EQS. Equity lifestyle
ELS.
prop. Yeah, ELS. There you go. Yeah, they for some reason they really don't like us. I don't know why. We've been trying to buy this one home in one of their parks, Brian, for how long now? It's insane.
Months.
It's
So
crazy. It's like this manager he's like fine, but he's like, oh, I gotta talk to my boss. Like we usually don't allow investors, but we do want to start working with you guys. Like, let me talk to my boss. Never talks to his boss. And we're telling the seller to put pressure on him. It's like a whole thing, but it's a good deal. So I don't know, we're staying on it.
Continue pushing. So there's usually no corporate rule. It's just that manager or that regional manager, they got burned by other people, or they might not want to give you a shot, or they don't yet believe you. So stay persistent and
Hmm.
hope that deal comes. Would you ever try to just lie? Would you ever say, you know what, I'm just going to buy it for me, live there, and then flip it like, 2 months later?
yeah, so I tried doing that, and I feel like they got the sense that I was probably a flipper because, when they asked for your information, I said that I'm, in New York and I'm looking to potentially move over there, and they were like, "Oh, like, don't you need a job though?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like applying to roles, in the area." And I think they kind of picked up the sense that I'm not, actually gonna live there, but I don't know.
That
It's
didn't work.
We're
Well, I mean, like, what did
They
they
never
say?
got
Did they
back to
just,
me. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're still processing your application." I was like, "All right." They're like, "All right, you should hear back by the end of the week." I was like, "Okay, great." Never heard back. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's really with this I mean, I with this park, it's
Mhm.
like it's yeah, they just don't get back to us. But I don't know. It's also another thing with a risk with that is the lot rent's like $1,000 a month.
Oh, wow. Yes,
So
yes.
it's
Nothing
like
less.
it's if we buy a home in there and they're like you can't sell it for like a year or something. It actually probably would still be a good deal now I think of it. But I don't know. Like, you just run that risk, and then you have to pay that lot rent. You would probably like sink like for this one deal we're thinking about. We would probably put like a good amount in, like maybe like 25K or something, all in. And then you have to pay that lot rent. So it's just kind of that risk. But if it's a home that's like 5, 10K, I think it's worth doing that. But
If they stopped you from selling it I mean, that would,
yeah, I was just kind of thinking. I
like,
don't
worst
think they would
case
do
or
it.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
worst case. So
I think a year, obviously would be pretty ridiculous, but from the reviews that Michael read online, they have had multiple bad reviews of management not getting back to people. So I think even maybe they don't think I'm an investor. Maybe they're just like, taking their time or not getting back to me
Amazing.
because, and that's, even a potential risk where, even if we do hold on to it for a little while, it will still be a good deal. But at the same time, it would be extremely frustrating to them finally allowing us to buy it. We clean it up, we market it, we have buyers lined up that are applying to the park, and the park's just not responsive. I think that would
yeah.
be, extremely frustrating.
Yeah, and like this, I mean, the seller, it's like she doesn't even live there. She's living in like another place and she's paying a lot of money and she's like, I can't pay this $1,000 lot rent. And I'm like, I know, like I wanna buy it. And like she was like, I know, like I really need the money and everything. And I'm like, I know. And then she's involved and she's just like constantly on the manager. And so yeah, I mean, it's like when I talked to the manager, it was like he was like, we really do want you guys in here. I just got to get permission from my boss. I don't know. It's like a whole thing. But
Why doesn't she sell it to somebody else? Is she marketing it, or?
no, she's not marketing it. I mean, which we found a lot. A lot of people that we buy it from, they're not marketing it, and which another reason you probably get a good deal. But she's not marketing it. She also like, I think she trusts us. We're really like talking to her a lot. We've met her and we're really working with her kind of just throughout this whole process. So I think she really appreciates that.
Don't give up on this manager at all. In fact, I mean, maybe they just need to
Uh,
see that you're not going anywhere. You're not a fly by night operation. That's our superpower in this business. I was talking to Megan the other day, and she was saying like we're persistent. That is our consistency is our superpower, which is
Hmm.
crazy because it's just a human trait that we don't give up
Yeah.
in this
I think
business.
yeah, I think that's kind of why we can get good deals too. It's like we stay on it. A lot of people wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
just consistently following up. Even just this past week, I was just randomly decided to go through all our text messages and just reach out to a bunch of people. And one guy that initially wanted, I think, 30,000 for his home, and I told him like 15 to 17, just the 50 to 60% trick. And then he sent us pictures, and it's in a good area, but the home was worse than we thought. And I told him, I was like, yeah, this is not typically something we buy, but we could offer, I think, $2,000. And he was kind of like, no, you guys are ridiculous. And so we, didn't text him for a little bit, then followed up, and he's like, oh, can you do this number? Like whatever it was, 10,000. I was like, no, sorry, we're still at like 2,000. And then, a couple weeks go by, I'm like, oh, you sell it yet? And he's like, no, some people are looking at it. He's like, can you do 5,000? I was like, no. And and he really needs to sell it, and I have to talk to the park, but we might be getting it at 2,500. So,
you got
but
he still owns it, and he just came down. He
yeah,
might come down. It's he has to win a little bit. It's like I won't take 2,000, but I'll do 25.
Yeah.
I mean, we still
Yeah.
have to talk to the park, and we still have to, go through the, all the steps, but it's possible, and just, the power of following up with people.
Yeah.
So,
And you're doing other things. It's not like during this whole couple weeks that happened or months, it's like you've been just sitting on your hands waiting for this guy. You've been busy
Hmm.
doing multiple other things. And thank you for coming on as well and just opening up and being candid. And you've only been doing this for a year. And I think that there's something special in like you're not super experienced, but you're not newbies anymore. And so maybe in another year when you have a park, I'd like to have you back on. So,
that'd be
Yeah.
great.
or
That'd be great. If we can find it, if we can find a good deal. Find
not
a good
if,
deal.
not if,
Yeah.
just
There
when.
you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, just I mean, yeah, like even before, I don't know. This business is so good. We could just talk all night about this and like just how you've busted your butts to make it happen, and you guys deserve all the credit. So, um, thank you so much for being here again and just helping and contributing. And I know there's been a lot of people that are going to get a lot of good information out this. So, thank you both again for hopping on.
Thank you,
Yeah.
John.
Thank you, John. Thank you for everything.